Welcome back, everybody. It's been a few days now since we had the conference call and the earnings from Tesla that happened on Wednesday. And I've had some time to kind of take it all in and digest everything. Not just the comments from Drew, Zach, and Elon and the product roadmap and all that, but also all the other noise that came along with it, right? What we heard from analysts, what we heard from PMs, what we heard from just retail investors, all the comments I was getting down below post earnings call. And I thought now that I've had time to digest everything, I'd give you some thoughts that kind of maybe put things a little more into perspective and how it seems like we always want to sit there and think that the grass is greener on the other side. And I want to put Tesla against Apple. And I want to give you an example where Tesla did everything we wanted, yet Apple, we never get what we want with Apple. And what we get with Apple is what we want from Tesla, and yet what we get from Tesla is what we want from Apple. Does that sound confusing? Maybe it is. So do me a favor, stick around, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell, and I'll clarify all of this for you. Let's get into it. Okay, so what am I talking about? Well, let's start with Apple. Historically, post Steve Jobs era, every time Apple has a product announcement, a product roadmap, a new release, a new, hey, you're invited to this Apple event, we get excited. We get all geeked out about some amazing thing that's to come. And every single time since Steve Jobs, in my opinion, it's been a letdown. It's been a disappointment, right? If you really think about it with Apple, what great product have they delivered since then? Okay, you could argue that they delivered the AirPods, which I have 2 pairs of, and I think they're phenomenal. But, you know, that's such a small product. It wasn't very revolutionary, if you will. In my opinion, they bought Beats, and then they took all of the intellectual property from Beats, and that's what led to the AirPods. So I wouldn't really call that. They've got their little Air tags, Apple tags, whatever they're called, that now it's getting all this bad publicity from about people using it to stalk other individuals. So that's an issue there. And again, we already had stuff like that out in the market, right? That was more of a Me Too product. I guess the way it uses it, right, by pinging or leveraging all the other iPhones around, that's unique. But in reality, it wasn't anything too groundbreaking. So what have we seen from Apple? A streaming service, more services type stuff, nothing really, right? All of their product roadmaps are more evolutionary. The iPhone, yes, I'm recording on one right now, actually. And the camera, they have gotten better. But again, it's just incremental improvements. We don't ever get that, or that one more thing type moment that we always got with Steve Jobs. Now, let me take that and pit that against Tesla. Elon Musk goes onto this earnings call, and he's prepared to talk about the product roadmap. And what he says is, no, all of you analysts, all of you people out there who think that you know what you want, but you don't know what you want, right? I think someone left me a comment recently. Henry Ford said, if I asked other people what they wanted, they would have just said a faster horse. They wouldn't have thought of the automobile, right? The internal combustion engine, a vehicle that can just be so much more efficient, so much better than a horse. And the same thing goes for Tesla. Elon Musk essentially laughed away the idea of a $25,000 car, saying it's not something we're working on right now. Instead, he said full self-driving is imminent, right? End of 2022 is what he is, he will be shocked if it doesn't happen, and that their primary focus right now is Optimus, the Tesla humanoid, the Tesla bot. Imagine you take those type of things being said and you put that to Apple. People would be geeking out. People would be freaking out. People would be saying, oh my God, here we go. Tim Cook is finally becoming like Steve Jobs. He's saying these amazing things or doing these amazing things. Yet that's not what you get with Apple, right? Apple, you just get these evolutionary things. Yet here comes Elon talking about the product roadmap and saying, no, the $25,000 car isn't what's needed. All the people who sit there and are stuck in this, and I hate to sound so cliche, but stuck in this box of thinking about a $25,000 vehicle, just thinking, well, that's the next logical thing. We need to go down the line to increase our total addressable market. They're missing the point. They're missing the big point, right? That is the same way everybody else thinks, and it's the wrong way to think. It's the way GM's thinking, right? GM's talking about putting out 20-something vehicle models out there. Instead, Tesla is focusing on full self-driving. Why? Well, this is the part that none of the analysts seem to understand. Once full self-driving is solved, once we have the ability to have autonomous vehicles, forget about robotaxis, put that on the back burner, just the ability to have vehicles drive themselves. Think of the utility of that. Why would you spend money on any other vehicle that when there's one that can drive itself? When there's one that you can get from point A to point B without really having to pay any attention? Think about that. Right? I mean, imagine how many people would forego getting onto planes because they could just get in their vehicle and drive somewhere. Me and my fiance have talked this all the time, right? Her whole family's from Boston. So we go up to Boston pretty frequently. And we would love the idea of saying, forget the plane flights. We'd rather get in our car with our dog, sit there, be able to watch Netflix, HBO Max, whatever, go all the way up. Maybe we stop a couple places to charge up while we're there, make a trip out of it, but it's not something that's like laborsome because we're having to pay attention 24/7 on that drive up there. Instead, it becomes more of a fun trip, right? Rather than having to shell out all this money for a plane ticket. So things like that are just not really thought of. And everybody wants to talk about the $25,000 vehicle because, well, that's just unleashing a new total addressable market. But full self-driving will create so much more demand, right? The amount of margin that you would get from selling every vehicle with full self-driving, the amount of demand that would incur, right? People would be flocking towards Tesla. I mean, everybody, I keep seeing these other comments saying, oh, well, with Tesla, the X or the Y and the 3, people can't afford these vehicles. Most people can't afford them. They're $52,000 per vehicle on average. Well, here's the truth. That's not how much they actually cost. All right. Is that what they're selling for? Yes. So what do I mean by that's not what they actually cost? They're actually, or they were a lot cheaper than that before. However, due to rising cost of goods to make these vehicles, sure, costs went up. But the other reason why prices have gone up is to essentially try to limit the total demand out there. Tesla can't keep up with demand. And they also don't want people to be sitting there with a year or 2-year wait time for these vehicles that are already in production. So the only way Tesla can try to control that funnel is to raise prices. Now, do you really think the company that has about 30% gross automobile gross margins can't drop their costs a little bit on the vehicles and gain a essentially exponential amount of demand? Of course they can. But my point in talking about this is that full self-driving is very underappreciated. And people are thinking about the $25,000 vehicle as if that was the next logical thing. And all I can say is if you really think that's the next logical thing and Elon Musk is telling you that's not the next logical thing, then maybe you're wrong. I'm not saying that Elon's always right, but this man is the guy who has done everything they said that can't be done. Right? They said a private company can't send rockets up to space, and he did that. They say it'd be impossible to have reusable rockets self-land. Well, he did that as well. They said that electric vehicles will never be the mainstream. They'll always be a small little niche and gimmicky type powertrain. Yet now here we go. Every company's trying to pivot towards that. Right? I mean, why would you continually sit there and say that this man is wrong? Again, he's not right about everything, but I think on the bigger mission, the bigger goals, he tends to always be right about. All right, he sees the future and then he makes the future. And it's not just him. All right, it's not just Elon. It's the entire team. And that's something that's very unique about Tesla. It's a culture of having a certain mission. Okay, it's the same reason why the military in the United States is just so vastly superior to all other militaries in the world. It's not because we have the best tech and things of that nature, which, yes, that's part of it. But it's the pride, right? That the pride, it's not about the job. It's the bigger mission. It's that love for the country that makes our military so different, right? The idea of sacrificing everything we have for this idea of freedom, right? That concept of freedom, right? That is such a... People just do not seem to understand that. And that's what Tesla has inside as a company. Name me another company that has that same type of passion, that same type of culture. They are a mission-driven company. The only other company I know of is SpaceX. SpaceX's mission is to make the world, humanity, multiplanetary. The mission for Tesla is to accelerate the advent of sustainable energy. to get off of the need of fossil fuels, right? This is more than money. This is more than a given product. It's a mission that they have. And this is what separates Tesla from everyone else. So when we see Apple sit here and have these product announcements that always seem to land flat, if not disappoint, and yet here we have Tesla telling us what the future is going to look like, yet we don't like what we hear from Elon because we don't see that as being the reality or possible. I have to remind you over and over again, these rockets are landing by themselves. They're reusable. An individual company is leading the world. SpaceX is leading countries, okay? Leading countries when it comes to space technology, when it comes to rocket technology. Tesla alone has completely upended the automobile industry to where everybody is trying to get to electric vehicles. So these are major things. So it just baffles me that when, the grass is always greener. When it comes to Apple, we want to hear about new amazing products. Here, when it comes to Tesla, we want to hear boring, predictable, same old type stuff. And it's funny because if you would flip those, I bet you we would be laughing at Apple, and I bet you'd be saying, hey, Tesla, you're just another company. You've lost your thing. You're a one-trick pony. You're just an electric vehicle company, which is what has happened, in my opinion, to Apple. Apple has become a product company. Listen, I have a MacBook. I have an iPhone. I have AirPods, right? I'm all about Apple. I love their products. I think they're vastly superior. I think the operating systems on there are so amazing. But I'm also not naive, and Apple has not innovated or created any kind of revolutionary product in a long time, in my opinion, since Steve Jobs. Meanwhile, you have Tesla, and Tesla continues to innovate. SpaceX continues to innovate, and they both continue to bring out revolutionary products. With Tesla, we saw the Model S, with the Roadster, the S, the X, the Y, the 3. And okay, you can say, all right, well, those are all just vehicles, so it's the same kind of thing. All right, well, then you have Tesla Energy. And it's more than just when they bought Solar City, right? Now what they're doing with the Megapacks is just unreal. And then you look at Starlink with SpaceX, right? Beyond the rockets. Don't forget about full self-driving, right? This is getting very close, extremely close, to the point where Elon really thinks that he's saying he'd be shocked if it's not better than a human by the end of 2022. So just to put all my thoughts into perspective, I stand with what I said after the earnings call. This was one of the most profound calls we've ever heard. It is one of the most profound moments, I think, in history, and we're not realizing what just happened. All right, Tesla has essentially said, we have decided, the Tesla bot, Optimus, full self-driving, these are not side hobbies. These are not side projects, right? You see Amazon doing this with their attempt at a phone, I think it was called the Fire or something like that, and that was a flop. We see Google Google does a million things that become a flop, these little side hobbies. Apple apparently is working on the car, yet every other day we hear about engineers and executives leaving their, I think was it Titan, their Titan program. All these companies who are trying to find that next thing to become, the next big thing within their company, right? Even Facebook, for example, Facebook couldn't do it. Facebook had to buy WhatsApp. Facebook had to buy Instagram. Facebook had to buy Oculus, right? These companies have to go and buy their innovation. Yet here we have Tesla telling you, this is what we're doing. These aren't side hobbies that if they work out, great. If they don't, it's just a flop. Tesla is saying, no, we're all in with full self-driving, and we're even more all in with Optimus. This is a big deal. This is the future. This is no different than Steve Jobs up there holding a little iPhone, and then the iPad is no different than that. The only difference is Elon doesn't say it as beautifully and dramatically as Steve Jobs did. Elon doesn't have that showmanship. Okay, so those are just my thoughts. I think that what we want from Tesla are the things that we get from Apple, and what we want from Apple are the things we get from Tesla. And it's just this constant, the grass is always greener, right? People wish they could hear these things from Apple, and they really don't. And people wish they could hear these things from Tesla, and they really don't. What they want is what they're getting from Tesla. And I think people would have been disappointed if Tesla would have just said, yep, we have another car model. Okay, who cares? We get it. You can make cars. What else can you do as a company? The only other company that can really think that really made a drastic, big change would be a company like Microsoft going into a public cloud, or Amazon going from selling things to the public cloud, right? And you can even say Microsoft is just a Me Too copy of Amazon. We saw Google. Google did it. Google went from search engine to YouTube. Absolutely phenomenal, right? But we don't see these companies do this that often. We don't see them come up with new, brilliant ideas that really revolutionize things that often. And yet here we have Tesla doing it over and over. We have SpaceX doing it over and over. And this should not be underestimated. Now, a couple other things I want to just talk about real quick. People were disappointed because they didn't hear what they wanted on the call. Yet, let me remind you, on that call, Elon did say we're not going to talk about everything we're doing because we do think some product announcements deserve their own launch. And so if there was a $25,000 car, which it sounds like there's not, Elon would not have talked about it because he just said it deserves its own launch. Now, here is my theory, and I've said this in the last couple of videos, I believe. I don't think we will ever see a $25,000 vehicle. Why? Because I think once full self-driving is good to go and it's ready for wide release, well, that's when Tesla continues to iterate on it to make it even better. But that's when Tesla really starts to focus on robo-taxis. And I think they're already doing that. And I think that's what's happening in China. I think the China design team is working on this. I think they're the ones who are designing the robo-taxi. I think this will be a vehicle that has no steering wheel. I think it's a vehicle that'll have no pedals. It's going to be a lot more cost effective to build. And I think it's going to be a vehicle that can transport the masses. Right? I think it'll also have a swappable battery. Keep in mind, Tesla was the first one to ever do this. I know we see NIO, but Tesla was the first one to do this. Now, that is a type of situation where it would make a lot of sense. Imagine a dense urban environment like New York City, where you have all these Tesla robotaxis. And once they start to lose battery charge, they just hop in, swap the battery, go right back out to work. Right? They don't have to waste time charging. Now, then again, the infrastructure for that, maybe doesn't make sense because the time it takes to go out there and charge isn't that, that long after a while. I mean, who knows? Who knows how fast we'll be able to charge? But these are the things that I think are the future. And I'll have one last point here. The idea of having a low-cost vehicle is the wrong way of thinking. A cost-effective vehicle is not the way you should be thinking of lowering costs for people. The way you should be thinking about it is, how can I lower the cost from going from point A to point B? Say point A to point B is 10 miles. Elon talked about this. If right now to go from point A to point B in an Uber costs me $20 and I can get that down to $2, that is what matters. That is what people will really be able to benefit from, and that will be revolutionary. Imagine that. If people right now who have to take a bus have to sit at a bus station waiting for that bus to arrive at night, dangerous, a single mom who's a nurse working the night shift has to wait at a bus stop, has to go and switch bus lines, has to wait, switch the bus 3 times, all these different stops just to get home, and then she has to walk to wherever she lives just so that she can get back to her family. Versus somebody that same lady can sit there at home. She can call a Tesla robotaxi. It arrives at her front door. She gets in. She gets to her work peacefully, out of the rain, can walk right in. Same thing. She calls it, gets home nice and safe. Who wouldn't do that instead of a bus or a train or a subway or even a taxi with a stranger you don't know? Right? That's what matters. How cheap can we make traveling from point A to point B? How much can we drop the cost of going that 10 miles? And that's what full self-driving will do. That is what the robo-taxi will do. And that is why the $25,000 car is irrelevant. It is the wrong way of thinking. It is that same consistent linear way of thinking that a lot of people have, instead of understanding that things have exponential ability, right? So again, I'm ranting at this point. Hopefully, some of these thoughts resonate with you. I want to take a step back digest everything I'm hearing from YouTubers, from analysts, from my commentators, from portfolio managers, and just take it all in and distill it and have my own thoughts. And at the end of the day, I come back to the same thoughts, thinking that this was one of the most revolutionary calls I have ever heard. And I think this is the first time that we truly see the next level, the next step for Tesla. We went from an EV company / energy company, and now we're officially in this era of a artificial intelligence robotics company. Thanks for watching. If you stuck to the end, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell. I love you all. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Peace.